Last minute shakeup at 5:30 a.m., laundry situation not good. And when your focus is on helping your clients, it's easy to forget about yourself. But NASM knows trainers.
Morning, Ryan. Is okay with
And staying in front of the day isn't always as simple as 1, 2, 3. So when the unexpected has you pressing pause,
What's the latest on creatine?
I'm going to get back to you on that.
let NASM1 help you press play. Visit NASM.org to sign up for a membership today.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this edition of the Master Instructor Roundtable. I'm Marty Miller here with co-host, dear friend, fellow Master Instructor, Miss Wendy Batts. Wendy, how's everything going today?
It's great, Marty. How are you?
Good, good. Today's a topic near and dear to my heart. I've spent probably the last, it could be even 8 to 10 years thinking about this. When I did my doctorate of health sciences, I really started pouring into why would people not exercise when everybody knows what's the long-term dollar costs of people who aren't taking care of their health. What can we do as a society to shift that? So yeah, I think now the term longevity is here to stay. And I think as we go through this topic today, hopefully some people will be like, yeah, wait a minute, I am doing that. And, or, you know what, this is an awesome opportunity for wherever I'm working is to continue to evolve from fitness into the longevity space.
Well, it's funny, Marty, because, I always get this question, how much is your health worth? And are you saving enough money to live as long as you want? So those are the two questions that always pop into my head when we start talking about longevity, or these are questions that I get with my clients. But this is actually an easy way to sell sessions as well, because everyone knows that physical activity is really important, but it's really the accountability, I think, of why people don't do it. Because I'm very often guilty. I work super early in the morning. I have a lot of things going on. I dipped my hands into a lot of different projects, and I enjoy that because I love to be busy. However, sometimes I put my health or my workout or something like that on the back burner because I have my child, my family, and then sometimes I don't put it as my number one.
Yeah, and the term that I've used is health is wealth. And I'll say this little quick story, and then we'll get in here to the introduction, is I worked in private country clubs outside of pro sports. And I had a client, I knew I needed to connect with him to get him to the other side of truly taking accountability and taking care of himself. So he had just bought a brand new Bentley, and he was a car guy. So I played stupid, and I was like, tell me about the car. And he got into it. And I said, well, I'm sure that it's expensive to get the oils changed. Yes. I'm sure it's, unique parts and this, that, the other. He's like, absolutely. And I said, so what you're telling me is you spend more time, more money, and more focus on taking care of a car that can be replaced in your health. And he did one of those, like, you gotta be kidding me. He's like, I hate you. But he goes, touche. And I said, you put better stuff in your car than you do your body. And he's like, okay. But, I had to connect that to him because, like, Wendy, like you're saying, life can get busy, get in the way. And before you know it, here we are. So what we're going to talk about today is what is longevity. I think a lot of people are going to know that. We have a definition. Is longevity something I should focus on? And of course, that's a rhetorical question. So the answer would be yes. How can I impact someone's longevity? You're already doing it, but can you be more focused? Again, the answer would be yes. And is longevity the future of fitness? I would answer yes if there's a quiz at the end of this for all of those. So off we go.
No Con Ed for this, guys. But Peter, you love this book. I know you have talked about this for a really long time, but I think it's important as we go through to define what we mean when we start talking about fitness and wellness and longevity, because sometimes people are like, oh, it's all the same. And it's not. There are different components of each one that kind of differentiates the importance of why we want to put these kind of in different pillars. And so when you're thinking about fitness, this is going to be what you're doing in the gym, your overall activity that you personally are doing. And then if we go back to the slide, you're going to see next is wellness. And that's the state. So we've got the condition of fitness. We've got the state of wellness, which means just being in good health, especially when you are pursuing a specific goal. Wellness is something that's, I think, very generalized, but it's kind of all inclusive. So when we talk about wellness, we do need to look at nutrition. We obviously are going to put fitness within that. We're going to be talking about what we're doing activity wise and how much cardio we're doing, kind of all inclusive of the fitness component. And then longevity, living a longer and healthier life. Well, yes, but there's a difference between, and we're going to get into that because Marty's all about the curve charts here, but a person can live, but are you living a healthy life? So I don't want to be stuck in a bed. Nobody wants this, where you're going to have caretakers or your children or your family members coming in to give you a bath, to take you to the bathroom, to feed you. I mean, that's really not living. So there's a big difference between the two. And so when we think about longevity, we want to think about living that healthier life and how long are we able and capable of doing that.
Yeah, and there's more and more coming out all the time. And just because we work in this industry doesn't mean we're an expert in everything. For example, there's more research that has come out that coffee, and I've been a big fan of this, is good for you. 3 to 5 cups a day. Neil Spruce even told us that. It's what you put in your coffee. So chipping away over years of drinking the wrong stuff in your coffee. So, I'm doing everything I can right now. One of my focus is to get rid of seed oils. And it's hard because some of the convenient foods that you like to carry with you, protein bars or coffee creamers, these little things over years, though, think of the volume of seed oils that you're putting in your body. So, I'm trying to live as clean as I can, but, I kind of focus on one thing at a time. And right now, shockingly, we've gone back to knowing that just like half and half creamer would probably be better for us than some of these no fat, highly seed oil type of flavored creamers. So that could be a takeaway.
I can't do black coffee. I am a creamer person. I'm not a half and half. Then I look at certain things too on labels, but don't take that away from me, Marty.
No, you're better off with the half and half than the Coffee Mate stuff. So
exactly.
There we go. So you're good, Wendy. You duck on that one. So what we're going to talk about is lifespan versus health span. Wendy touched on it. So lifespan is the total number of years we live, whereas our health span is how many of those did we remain healthy and free from disease. Health span is that part of a person's life during which they are generally in good health. And this was originally coined by Dr. Gordon Lithgow, formerly of the University of Manchester in the UK. And it's funny, I have no problem sharing it. I'm 52. And I saw some posts on social media from some of my friends that are in that ballpark. This gentleman's a couple years older. And he's really saying, hey, let me help you as a 55-year-old, with those typical aches and pains and this, that, the other. And I knew what he was getting at, but I'm like, check, I don't have those, right? Luckily, I haven't had any traumatic accidents. And I've been able to, through my NASM training all these years, really focus on my posture, moving well, picking exercises that aren't going to cause orthopedic injuries. And Wendy knows she gives me that typical want to chat at 5 o'clock, 5:15 in the morning on Mondays and Wednesdays. And I'm up doing my mobility work. And that's what I do because I understand that I need that so I can continue to do what I want to do, living my best life. So, I think that that's going to be a key thing is I warn my boys, I'm going to live as long as possible and hopefully just drop dead.
Yes. Best case scenario.
Yes. We'll have a picture of that here coming up soon.
Just go to bed. So the longevity curve, I mean, Marty, I know I'm not going to take this away from you because you are the curve guy. So go ahead.
Right. So if we take out traumatic accidents and certain things that are, at this point, we don't fully understand all the whys on certain diseases, right? So we're not downplaying that happens. But we know that a lot of people fall into a disease state that's earned over time. And what I mean by that is if you go back just 100+ years ago, most people died from getting infections and other things, right? Things that we didn't have medicines for. Well, right now, the biggest causes of death are behavioral based. So what happens is people get to their 30s and 40s, they start to become that typical deconditioned American. They start adding the excess body weight. And over time, they earned some of the diseases such as diabetes, which now we know could lead to dementia, different cancers from carrying too much weight and not being active enough. And again, we know that there are certain things that we cannot at this point in time understand the whys, but there are enough when you look at the top 10 leading causes of death. And even if you go back to 2020, the people that had the biggest issue with COVID was people who had comorbidities. So the goal is to not age and then hang on to some level of life towards the end. It's to live a healthy life and slowly, not rapidly, decrease our health. It's kind of like a sudden type of situation, right? You'd want to be, as Wendy said when we open up this slide, is, one day everyone's like, well, wait a minute. They were 89 years old, 95 years old, and they went to sleep and they didn't wake up. Yep, you won, because you didn't have this prolonged disease state. And we know unequivocally now, the evidence shows that if you live a healthy lifestyle and that you're eating certain types of foods and sleep and stresses are monitored and, you do what you need to do, you absolutely increase your chance of having a healthier life longer.
Well, and I think too, it's important to bring up genetics. I mean, I've shared on this podcast as well as others, unfortunately I have some family history that when I sit there and talk to my doctor, they're like, what about this? I'm like, yes. What about this? Yes. Who in your family? My mom, my dad, my grandmother, right? And the list goes on. And they're like, holy moly. So I have a lot of things working against me. So it's very important that I think about, okay, what can I do? Because I can't fight genetics, but I can really try to think about, well, if I do this, this is more than some of my family members did. Mm-hmm. We are very obviously more knowledgeable. There's so much more research out there today than there was 50 years ago. I mean, thank goodness, right? We're learning all the time. Marty and I learn every day. And that's important. And so people are like, well, I have my genetics are going to say this, so it's just a matter of time. And I've made jokes like that too. But in all reality, there was a lot of things that they did that fed into some of these genetic factors. So we can really kind of grab it and take a hold and think, okay, if this is something that I'm playing against, what can I do to combat that? So therefore, it's not going to get me as well.
And two things that come right to bat off the top of my head is the early prevention now is critical. Like, don't not go to the doctors. That's a huge part of getting ahead of it and finding these indicators earlier, right? And we're better at that. Number two is sometimes what you do in your 20s and 30s could trigger something in your 50s and 60s. And Wendy, I went through a family situation recently with someone who had a very severe case of ALS. And the one thing we will never know is, was it the 25 years of smoking, even though they stopped for 20 years, there is a link, right? So is it genetic, meaning that the gene is there, but something triggered it? Or is it just going to be there regardless? But if I had to gamble, right, we've never said, hey, we found research that smoking is beneficial, drinking alcohol. Now they've even come out and said there's no benefit to alcohol, right? Where before there was little bit. So stay atop of the information. And again, we're not here to judge behaviors. We're just here to give you the best facts and to give you an idea of how you should look forward as it is with this longevity conversation.
Yes. Well, so as baby boomers age, the number of U.S. adults over 65 is expected to be more than doubled by 2060, outnumbering children for the first time, which that's pretty sad when you think about that, according to the Population Reference Bureau. And when you're looking at, and if you guys aren't looking at the PowerPoint, there's a chart there and it just shows an arrow going up. And according to these figures, that this is the highest rate, meaning 65 or older. You're going to live 65 years or older, which is the highest ever, and this is just from 2010 to 2020. So in 10 years, we're seeing an increase in longevity, which is good. But it also comes back to the factor of, are you healthy living? Meaning, are you enjoying life? Are you going out and doing things? And the topic that always comes up when I think about longevity, and we're going to get into some more information on the next couple slides. But, Marty, when you brought up smoking, they say now that, sitting is the new smoking. And the more that we're not active, and I've seen this in my own father. Again, I shared that story as well. He became a caretaker, which took him away from some of his physical activities. And now he's paying the price. Now, again, he wouldn't trade that. And that was just an unfortunate incident and things that happened. And it was good to see that he cared enough to stop what he was doing for fun in order to be the man that he needed to be at the time. But he's paying that price. And, we have to think about what's going to allow us to continue to live longer, but then also move better, feel better, and perform better.
Without a doubt. So this was an interesting slide for me, that healthcare versus disease care. And when I did my doctoral research, I contemplated this topic, but it was a little complicated at the time. No offense to anybody that's working in this industry, because God knows we need people in this industry. We need to take care of disease when it happens, but it's just the term is a little innocuous and a little maybe not quite accurate. There's a lot of people that work in the disease care state, and that's awesome because people are going to get sick, and they do amazing work at keeping sick people alive and helping them improve. But we are truly the healthcare industry, right? In fitness, we're not called that. So this is a me term, not even an NASM term, but we're the ones working on prevention. We're the ones working on getting ahead of it before somebody moves into that disease care state. So they're both very important. But when we look at what insurances pay for, things like that, they're starting to, but they really pay for the disease care. So this quote here is, at medical school, we were told that our aim should be able to help our patients die young as late as possible. It's what we're talking about, right? You want to be a very active 70-year-old, 80-year-old, 90-year-old, whatever that is. So surgeon and Harvard Medical School alum, I want to make sure I pronounce the first name right, Tenley Albright, equipped that the 2019 Hollis Albright Symposium said this, right? At medical school, we are told that our aim should be to help our patients die young as late as possible. And there's been a lot of attention on it. We know that a lot of doctors are trained in pharmacology more than they are other things, but we see the Dr. Peter Attias, we see some of these doctors shifting, so they're thought leaders, which will help shift the industry. So I'm incredibly excited. And hopefully at 52, I'm on the cusp of getting the benefits of this focus when I hit 60s and 70s and 80s, plus with what I've done, hopefully for the last 30 years, it's not, where I didn't get to see some of these advantages, but that's where we are as an industry. And I just want all of you to understand that you guys are healthcare. I'll use the term professionals, not by standards in the industry, but we do work as frontline healthcare.
Oh, 100%. And if somebody comes in healthy and they want to be moving better and feeling better, we are definitely equipped to do that. And if somebody's coming out of post rehab or post physical therapy, whatever it may be, we're equipped to do that as well. And that's one of the beautiful things about NASM and the OPT model. We can really get any client to any goal as long as it's progressive and systematic and everything like that. So 100% agree with that. But Marty, before we continue on today on the Master Instructor Roundtable with myself, Wendy Batts, and Marty Miller, we are talking about longevity. Basically, what's the difference between your lifespan and your health span? There is a big difference. And I know that we talk about it often, but it's also really good to have the statistics that follow that. And this episode of this Master Instructor Roundtable is brought to you by NASM One, which is the membership for trainers and coaches. Members enjoy unlimited access to hundreds of career resources. So get the Edge app to schedule and program clients, enjoy half off all certifications and specializations, access free CEUs, and more. All of this for just $35 a month. Go to nasm.org/membership to learn more about NASM One. So Marty, let's move forward and see what we've got on the agenda.
You got it. So back to what I was talking about, if we go back even 100 years ago. So if one is past their health span, it means they're chronically sick, often with a degenerating condition. So if you are listening only, I would love that you guys look us up on YouTube through the NASM channel and look at the graphics we have. So on the right here, we're looking at deaths per year and age of first occurrence. We have heart disease at 610,000, age of first occurrence at 65, lung cancer, we got that, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease or COPD, stroke, lower respiratory infections, Alzheimer's, which is very interesting. A lot of people, Wendy, I was thinking about this when you said, it's in my family. Well, is the precursor in your family? And then maybe people had horrible diets with high sugar and lack of exercise, because that is generational sometimes. So still more to, and I think artificial intelligence will tell this in years. Type 2 diabetes, again, that tends to be something that people can earn over time, not always, but can earn it by being sedentary, like you said. And then we have different types of cancer. So, these are top 10 causes of death in the US and their average age. But the last time I looked, every single one of these, the best prevention is a healthy lifestyle and exercise.
100%. Movement is medicine. I think we've heard that before too. So when we talk about some of the effects that happen with the lack of exercise, now, again, it doesn't mean that Marty and I are saying that you need to go out and run half marathons or have some crazy goals that are just not of interest to you. You've got to think of what is it that you're passionate about, because the more active you are, whether it's you're taking your dogs for a walk multiple times a day, you're trying to earn a certain amount of steps because you have a specific goal, or you go and do activities with friends. Like, I love to play tennis. That is one thing that I do. I schedule and I am passionate about it. But the thing is if you have a lack of exercise, you're just not motivated. The number one thing, and I always say this because people are like, I'm just not motivated. It means that you haven't found what interests you. And so you've got to dig deep in finding that, and trying something new sometimes is the trigger. But if we're looking at what can happen if you don't exercise, of course, heart disease, we have known this for a really long time, but not getting enough physical activity can lead to this type of disease, even when there's no other risk factors. So it can increase the likelihood of developing heart disease factors such as obesity, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, type 2 diabetes, all of that. Again, just sometimes moving can help prevent this. Of course, type 2 diabetes, physical activity, it regulates blood sugar or glucose. It actually regulates our weight, our blood pressure. We can increase our good cholesterol while lowering your bad cholesterol. So what is your number? And then is the LDL higher than the HDL? You've got to look at the differences, because the differences matter. And so we're trying to achieve adequate levels of moderate physical activity, which, again, according to the information that's out there, we're saying 150 minutes per week. Guys, that's not very long, but this can help reduce the chances of heart disease, neuropathy, and which are very common too with people with diabetes and cancer. Right? We have to talk about this because people that have cancer, of course, such as myself, in your family history, getting the recommended amount of physical activity can lower many forms of cancer, including breast, colon, and uterus. However, guys, even people with cancer, there's been a lot of research that shows the more active someone is, especially, even though they may be going through some sort of chemotherapy, there's been a lot of positive benefits that go along with the medications or the actual preventative things that they're doing in their disease care, if you will, that shows that physical activity can help as well. It's just also good mentally. So there's a lot of positive things that can happen when you exercise.
Yep, never seen anything bad if you're exercising the way we would teach it with NASM, right? So in the United States and globally, these numbers are massive as well. About 1 in 2 adults do not get enough aerobic physical activity. 77% of high school students, do not get enough aerobic physical activity. Shocker, especially nowadays with some of the phys ed programs cut, and also online classes. Think about the students that online. I love the ability to online, but remember running through your high school halls to get from one class to another. Think how many steps a day you just miss there, right? And then 117 billion in annual healthcare costs are related to low physical activity.
Well, and it's weird too, because we talk about this. I teach online, so I'm also sitting more grading papers and doing this. But every time we have open discussions, it's very interesting because people are like, I'm looking at my posture now while I'm sitting in front of my computer. I'm going to blame my bad posture and my lack of movement to all my professors that are making me do all this research. And so it's actually, it's not funny, but it's funny. And this is where it is. And like you said, Marty, it's interesting too, because I do have high school students that's what they do. They're taking some of their classes because they may be doing some sort of event where they can take some of these courses online. And we didn't have that, like you said, in high school, but even in college. I mean, I attended 2 different universities. I started at one, I transferred and went to another. But in the first university I went to, there's something called the Hill. And anytime you had a sciences, which I was an exercise science and health major, we had to go up what we called the hill. And people were sitting there halfway through because they needed a break before they even got to class. And then, of course, the other university was very spread out and talking about you needed to haul it to make sure that you weren't late because they shut the doors and lock it. And if you're not in there, you get counted off. So one of those things where you were constantly moving, even though you had to sit into some of these long lectures. So there are a lot of positive things, but unfortunately, because more people are turning to technology and doing some of these online courses, like you said, it's great educationally, but physically it's terrible.
You know me, sitting for the podcast, I get fidgety. This is a stand-up desk, and I bought it purposely because about 8 hours today, I'll be standing up. So you guys just got to adapt. So when we look at the pillars of longevity, you could fall into all of these. You could fall into some of these, and it's not that you have to have all in your facility or in your practice, but this is kind of where the standards of the industry are. So first and foremost, diagnostics, right? That's becoming easier, less expensive. And you always partner with a group to come into your facility and offer the diagnostics. I work with some of the biggest health chains in the country with what I do for my full-time job, and they're all leaning into that. There's no question. Nutrition supplementation, we got a great partner here with .fit. They're in 2,500 different clubs. You've got recovery, regeneration, right? The recovery spaces now is a big part of business. Cognitive is there. Then we have our performance. So it could be cardiovascular, mobility, movement, stretch zones, things like that within facilities. NASM has our flexibility and mobility specialist course. We have, then again, the resistance training, our strength and our power. We've got mindset. That could be yoga. That could be sound baths. That could be in the recovery rooms, quiet areas. Then we have lifestyle. So the key thing is, look at what you're offering. Are you a fitness center, a wellness center? Or are you moving towards that longevity center, right? So find appropriate partners if you cannot offer these services in-house or due to your scope of practice.
Well, and I'm going to say this too, Marty, when you're looking at this 1 through 7 that you just read off, what I noticed about all of it is this is everything that NASM offers as well. Mm-hmm. Diagnostics could be just something as simple as your assessments. And Marty and I talk about the number one thing is if you want to design an individualized specific program, you need to assess. If you're not assessing, you're guessing. And then think about, we've got the CNC or the CNSC. So basically all of our nutrition courses, there's recovery courses out there. So even if you're not sure, there are education courses that are available to you. And if you are part of NASM 1, you get it at a steal. If not, I say that because some of them are even free. Some of them are, at half price, if not more. And you can dive in to see, is this an area that maybe you're lacking some education on? Get a little bit more specific in that particular niche. And that can also help build your business. So all of this stuff, like I said, we're trying to provide you with the education resources. Use NASM because we're here for you. And Marty and I can help you. And then if you have more questions, that's a beautiful thing. When we provide you with our information, give us some topics of maybe where you're struggling. And we're happy to do a webinar to help kind of dive deeper into particular topics that maybe you need a little more guidance on.
Well said. So some key takeaways, are you on the path to offering a longevity program? The answer has to be yes, because you're doing at least some of those 7 without even realizing that there is a longevity component to it maybe. Are you a fitness center? Are you a wellness center? Are you a longevity center? And that's, again, if you're looking at bricks and mortar, but even if you're online, what are your offerings and where can you move to offer a more robust plan for your customer base? Are you thinking about health span versus lifespan? And then without a doubt, there are so many different longevity partners out there. It could be Therabody, it could be Hyperice, it could be fill in the blank. There's so many different things you can start leveraging. So to me, there's no question that this is the future of fitness, is to be in this longevity space. So I highly recommend you kind of do a self-assessment and see where you can add to your business offerings.
100%. Well, guys, as always, if you have questions, comments, or if there's any information that Marty and I can provide to you, our contact information is up here on the slide. But if you're listening, it's just wendy.batts@nasm.org if you want to email me, or you can find me on Instagram at wendy.batts13.
And my info is right here. So at Instagram is dr.martymiller72. And my email is marty.miller@nasm.org. So Wendy, thanks for your insights. I really do believe that this can be kind of that aha moment for a lot of our listeners. And we're always here for future questions. So thanks again, Wendy.
Thank you.
And for all of you that joined us this week, as always, can't thank you enough. And of course, we look forward to seeing you next week on the Master Instructor Roundtable.